Hello everyone and welcome to GameGet episode 9. After a long while, I'm finally back with a new video. Don't expect them too frequently as fines are getting more scarce. But as you can see here, I at least found a little bit in this bin of DVDs. Nothing super special, just a couple PS2 games that I didn't have, and that were actually in surprisingly good shape considering that usually when I see games like TMNT, they're usually kids games are just scratched incredibly. But I found the TMNT and BioShock. I also managed to find this copy of Bin 10 on the PS2. Once again, these games are nothing super special, but they're stuff I didn't have in my collection that were in great shape. So surprisingly, we find some pretty good games in this batch. We saw the Crash Bandicoot 2, there was a Marvel Ultimate Alliance that had a bonus DVD that I hadn't seen before, and a copy of Black Ops 2. Now, I have Black Ops 2, had it since launch, but at the time of this recording, that game had a pretty high trade-in at GameStop. So honestly, I just took the game, which the store was asking, I believe, $3, and took it to GameStop and got something like $16 in store credit, and I just used that for a future purchase. That's something that I highly recommend you do when you're out game hunting, is check GameStop trade values, because sometimes you'll find stuff for only a couple bucks that GameStop will actually give you decent credit for, and you can use that to buy new games, so you're not paying $60 all the time. So in this sea of PS2 sports games you find at every thrift store, I find this copy of Monster 4x4. I end up not getting it because the case is in terrible shape, there was no manual, and I looked at it a bit closer later and the disc was in awful shape as well. That thing would not have played, and it wasn't a game worth that risk. However, I do find a couple Wii games. Now, I'm one of those crazy fools who will just kind of collect anything and everything that's video game related, so Wii games I don't have are of interest. However, if it's a game that I know is going to be garbage or just isn't that good, if I'm going to buy it, I want it to be in good shape and complete. And unfortunately, while I didn't have these two Wii games, they didn't have the manual, so I was going to have to take a pass on those. So further down is a couple 360 games. First one is Star Trek. I don't have it, and it looks like it's missing the manual, but it's actually worth a little bit. So for like the $3 I was paying, I decided to pick it up. And I also found The Sims 3, which has surprisingly held a decent amount of value. It's somewhere between like 15 and 20 bucks. Even though the console version of The Sims are never as good as the PC versions. They're always missing stuff. The user interface is kind of weird to use with the controller. But for $3, I didn't have it, so why not? Now here I found a random cart in the middle of the book section of this thrift store that had a decent amount of PS1 games. Now, the games weren't anything super great. The best one was the Spyro you saw sitting on the left there. But it was impressive to see this amount of games just kind of chilling in a cart, as really anything game related, if it's not sports, is gonna go pretty quick at a thrift store, especially in my area, where it seems like every other person who walks into a thrift store is either a collector, picking up games just because, oh, I still have my old PS1, or is looking to flip them. Now, you can see pretty clearly that these are all kids' games, and the condition of them reflected that once I really started looking at them. Butterfingers. And they were pretty scratched up, but they were all about $2 each, and I do have a disc buffer, so I'm willing to take the risk on these and see what I could do with them. And the good news was, once I got them home and put them in my PlayStation 2, most of them worked. There were one or two that gave me some hiccups, but once I threw them through the buffer, they were good to go. So just like how I was saying with Wii games earlier, if I find a game that's cheap, it's complete, so it's got the artwork, it's got the manual, and the disc isn't in such bad shape that even a resurfacer couldn't save it, I'll usually pick it up just to kind of add to my collection. And also, you sometimes find interesting games, like how I was looking at the Sesame Street Sports, I was kind of wondering to myself, like, what could this game even be? I don't pick up every single game you see in this stack here, because some of them would have been duplicates for me. And most of them, with the exception of the Spyro, weren't really good to have around as trade bait. So I just picked up the games I didn't already have, and left the rest for someone else to find and enjoy. Hilariously enough, someone actually did pick up the rest of these games really quick after I did, because I never saw them at the thrift store again. I was back there probably a couple days after this was recorded. So going through the shopping carts once again to check out the new stock, what they haven't been put on the shelves yet. And under this Princess board game, I happened to find a couple DS games. Now, these games were nothing super special. It was like Personal Cooking Trainer and Master of Illusions. But there was also Magnetica, which is a pretty neat little puzzle game. It did have a version on the Wii, but it was through WiiWare, so you have no way to play it anymore, unfortunately. But if you've ever played Zuma, it's very similar. But it's a fun game that I've played a good amount in the past. So I'm continuing to check out the carts, and I come across an unopened PS3 Bluetooth headset. While I don't need another Bluetooth headset, it's pretty neat to have around just because of the branding. So we once again find ourselves checking out some VHS tapes, and oh look, there's another Sesame Street game, of course. So I was definitely going to get this, because this game has this big box version that comes with that Wiimote sleeve, and I don't see those too often, so I'm going to pick that up. So at this thrift store, I find a bunch of Wii games, including this sealed copy of Big Brain Academy. And not only was that game there sealed, as I scrolled down to, kind of check and see if anything else was, I found a sealed copy of Wii Party. That game alone is one that is fairly desired among Wii collectors, as it just didn't sell that well at launch. So finding a sealed copy is pretty cool, and I'm going to use that as some trade bait to get some games from my collection that I actually really want, because I have an open copy of Wii Party, and that's not a game that I really want to just have around as a sealed copy. At yet another thrift store, checking out an actually sizable amount of games, and if you look at them, there's not a whole lot of sports hiding in there. And oh my goodness, another copy of Wii Party? I just found that game a good number of times, and those were probably found about a week apart, if I remember correctly. That copy, I believe, ended up going to GameStop because they were doing some crazy trade-in thing. So that one also ended up becoming credit for another game. And a copy of Gauntlet on the PS2. Once again, a great game to find. I already had it, and I actually had a buddy who was looking for it, so I ended up giving him a great deal on it. So I also found a couple of PSP games. I picked them both up just because I don't have a very big PSP library, so I'm always looking to build that up. Now, I did already have the Capcom game, I just completely forgot that I did. So I'm just going to hold on to that until I find someone who wants it, or I have a system to sell, and just pair it up with that. So back at the same thrift store where I found the sealed Wii games, I actually had another trip that gave me a decent amount of games, which is pretty uncommon because this particular thrift store just tends to not have very many games worthwhile. They'll have a bunch of Connect garbage and your sports games you see everywhere, but they usually don't have anything decent, and I had 2 good trips. So you'll see that Connect Rush I pick up just because it's a 360 game. I don't have it, it's cheap, why not? I also find these other 2 360 games, which are Snoopy's Grand Air Adventure or something like that. And the other game you didn't see me grab, but you'll see in a second here, was actually the Avengers game on Connect, which is actually a fairly pricey game. I don't know if it's any good or not. It's probably not, because it's a Connect game. But I'm definitely going to pick it up, and it's only a few bucks, especially since last time I saw it at a GameStop, I remember it being $20 or so. But I check all these games out, and they're all in good enough condition that I'm willing to pick them up to add to the collection. I have actually been back to this thrift store a couple times since these clips were recorded, and as I would guess, there just really has not been much there. So at another thrift store, come across this bin that was filled with DVDs as well as actually a decent amount of games. Now that first batch I found didn't really have anything of interest, but hey, there's a copy of Raw 2 that seems to have a signature on the manual. Now I'm not 100% sure who this is. I have a couple friends who've given me an idea of who might have signed it, but we have no conclusive proof. So moving forward to this next bin, I find this copy of the Owl game. Don't have it, so why not? Check out a couple other games. Copy of Guitar Hero Live. Nothing super special, kind of standing out. But I do happen to find this copy of Cars International, which once again seems to have decent value, and I don't have it, so why not pick it up? And this copy of Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, which I picked up because I thought I didn't have it, and it turns out I did. So I'll just kind of hold on to that until I either find somebody who's interested in it or have a 360 to sell. Proving Ground to me is not a great Tony Hawk game. I played on the PS2. You can see the influence of Skate starting to creep into it. It's definitely not one of the better Tony Hawk games. So continuing on, I find a copy of Driver San Francisco, which is a game I've been wanting to try for a while because I remember when it came out it got really good reviews and looked fun. And then also a copy of Night at the Museum, which is the exact opposite. Did not get good reviews, does not look super fun, but I don't have it, so why not? Let's pick it up. Kind of interested in this copy of SmackDown vs. Raw, just because I really haven't played a wrestling game in a while, and I know some of the older ones are a little more arcadey. There's a copy of Star Wars Battlefront, but I just don't really have any reason to pick that up. I do see this copy of Madagascar 2, another game I don't have, so why not? And then I'm looking through the games, and I could not believe it. No, not the NCAA Football 10, but NCAA Basketball 10. Do not overlook this game, people. This one actually holds its value pretty well because it was the last NCAA basketball game made. So just for that fact alone, people are still interested in it. Same goes for NCAA Football 14 because it's the last NCAA football game that was made. Now, previous years don't really hold the value super great. I mean, if you find NCAA Basketball 09, it's about $10, and NCAA Football 13 is about $10 as well. Now, what's inside this box, you can kind of see, is the best find I've had in a while, and probably will have for a while. Inside this box is an amazing amount of games, such as Smash Bros. Melee, Custom Robo, Mega Man X Collection on the GameCube, Xenosaga 3, Grim Grimoire, Odin Sphere. Just an absolutely astounding collection, and I found this for only $80. Now, we do have a couple problems where, like, 1 or 2 games didn't work, but they weren't anything super special. They were kind of like the clunkers of the lot that didn't work, luckily. But I was so excited when I found this. So that'll do it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed and have a wonderful day.